Hello, this is Chuck Ridgway, Automation Technology Manager at Horner. Thanks for joining us for another Tuesday live stream. Well, I'm back in the studio and I think I've got a great topic for you today. Here it is. OCS360 Tips and Tricks. Now, we've covered Horner's OCS360 cloud service pretty heavily on this channel, but it's been a while. And today we're going to do something much different than we've done before. We're going to give you just a series of tips and tricks to help you use the cloud service more efficiently. That's how we're going to spend a bulk of our time today. So let's get right to it. We're going to start today with just a one-slide review of OCS360, and then I've got a demo for you showing you how to add a controller, and then everything else is all about the tips. We're going to cover account management, multiple administrators, we'll talk about some new widgets, we'll show you how to duplicate a dashboard. We've got a lot in store. And then at the very end, we're going to talk about what's next for OCS360. Here we go. All right, so what is OCS360? It is a cloud service from Horner that does require a subscription that allows you to push data from your Horner controllers to the cloud. And the core functions included with OCS360 are data recording for up to 5 years. You get great dashboarding capability so you can see what's happening at all times with your applications. And then there's great alarm annunciation and notification capabilities with a lot of flexibility. So you can, get notifications via email or text messages or the web, whenever something happens that you want to be aware of. Now there's a lot in store in terms of additional features and companion functions with OCS360. We've already released Remote Connect, and we have another feature called Remote View. We'll talk about that a little bit more at the end. And again, just to be clear, you do need a subscription for the OCS360 cloud service and for the companion services. All right, let's go ahead and add a controller to OCS360. So there's a variety of ways you can do that. I'm just going to show you one method. So first of all, let's take a quick look at Cscape. So this is the program running in the controller that I want to add to OCS360, and I want to add telemetry capability so I can push data from the controller, create dashboards, those sorts of things, alarms, notifications, all that sort of good stuff. Okay, so this is my program. Now really, to enable OCS360 on this controller, all I really had to do was go here under Program Variables, and then in my program variable list, I just I put a check mark here in the OCS360 column for all the variables that I actually want to publish. So I've done that here, okay? So I just went through and said, okay, these are the ones I want to publish. Combination of data that is, read-only, like temperatures and those sorts of things, and a combination of other variables that are read-write. So things like set points and those sorts of things. Okay, so that was really all I had to do. Once you do that, and download the program, of course, then effectively you've got an OCS360 configuration in your controller. And if we want to take a look at what that OCS360 configuration looks like, we double click here under networking on the project navigator, and we can see that all the check marks that we had made for all the variables we wanted to add, those effectively were basically added to this list here just by the fact that I check marked them. My account ID, if I'm online with a server, then there'll be an account ID in there. If there's not, you'll just have to put that in manually from the system menu, and I'll show you where you can put that in manually in the system menu. And then you just have to decide what kind of update type you want. In this case, I want to send the data up there about once a minute. There is a recommendation here lately that says that, to add a second to your desired interval, your publish interval, to keep you below your rate limits if you have a little bit of clock drift. Frankly, I'm not that concerned about that. I would just, in my case, I'd be perfectly happy just setting it for 60 seconds, but that's just me. Okay, so that's the configuration I have in here, okay? And then I downloaded this program to my controller that I want to add to OCS360. And then let's go ahead and take a look at the bench. And then what I did, because I haven't added it on the OCS360 side yet, I went ahead and disabled, I'll go to the system menu here. Okay, and if we go back to, here's what the system menu looks like by default. If you scan down, you can see the OCS360 item. Now, account ID, this is where you need to type in your account ID, your OCS360 account ID, if it isn't populating on its own, okay? All right, and then under telemetry, if you want to enable that, after your download where you've got OCS360 now configured, that's going to be on. Now, I don't want this thing sitting here trying to talk to OCS360 if it's, not been enabled on the OCS360 side. So I turned that off, and I will turn that back on again here in a little bit. Okay, so that's what I've done on the bench. Next, let's go ahead and take a look at OCS360 itself. Okay, I've logged into OCS360, and it's the devices area where we add devices. And you can see I have one device added already. I'm going to go ahead and add another one. All right, so I'll hit add. Now, the key piece of information we're going to need to add this device is the MAC address of the controller. And I'll show you where to find that in a little bit. And then we also have to give this a convenient name. So let's just call this whatever, some name that makes sense based on its location, etc. All right, I'll just call this CPU 300 oven. I'm going to use MAC address, okay? And for now, I'm just going to turn on telemetry, okay? And then I need that MAC address to add this. So where can I find the MAC address? Well, let's go back to the system menu. All right, let's go to the home area of the system menu. Scroll back up to the top, find network and LAN, and the MAC address is there at the top. So we can then just type that in back on OCS360. Okay, we can just type the numbers in. We don't have to worry about the formatting. OCS360 will take care of that for us. So that's the ID that I want. Looks good. I'll confirm the address and I will hit add. Okay, so it has added it, okay, but it's not yet active. Okay, so what are we going to need to do to make it active? Well, let's go back to the bench. Okay, I'm going to go back home here, and I'm going to scroll back down to OCS360 and go back to telemetry, and I'm going to turn this enable bit on. Okay, so that's this first step I'm going to do. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to do a power cycle, because I know that when the CPU 300 powers up, that if it's been enabled for OCS360, that it's going to go through the whole process at power up of, getting a certificate, logging onto OCS360, all those sorts of steps. So I always like to go ahead and just do a power cycle when I'm ready for it to connect, because I know it's going to go through that process. Okay, we've completed our reboot and given it a minute or so, and it's still showing inactive, but it may just need to be refreshed. So if I go back here, I'll go back home, and then I'll go back to devices. There we go. Yep. All I had to do really was just refresh it, and we are perfectly active. So there we go. We've added a device to OCS360, just showing you one method to do that. For our next tip, let's go to the account section. All right, so I'm going to click on accounts here, the three dots, select account. Okay, so we have four main tabs here. Let's start by taking a look at the security tab. This is something you may want to change that you may not be aware that you can, and that is two-factor authentication. So basically, you get to choose between email or SMS for your two-factor authentication, and you can enable one or both methods or neither method. So if you've got an account you're sharing with a coworker and you're logging under the same login, then you can turn both two-factor authentications off. That's an option. Now, of course, we wouldn't recommend that, but you certainly have the ability to do that if you choose. Okay, so that's how you can tweak your security settings. Now let's head on over to the billing tab, because I want to show you how you can manage your subscription. All right. So if you want to make a change to your subscription, change plans, add OCS360 remote, whatever that might be, you can do that right here from this area. I press the manage subscription button, press it once again up here. All right. It tells me about my current plan. And now if I want, I can go ahead and modify my subscription right from here. So this again shows me the available plans, which plan I've selected, how many OCSs I have on this plan. If I want to add OCS 360 remote, I can add that here. Okay, and it shows the cost. Now remember, since I am subscribing to the telemetry for OCS 360, I get OCS 360 remote for half price, $50 a year. And that gives me a gigabyte a month. All right, now, if I am getting to the point where I am, running out of data, and I'll be notified via, emails telling me that I'm getting low on my data for OCS 360 remote, then I can also add an add-on for $20. So again, probably not going to be required. Most of the time, a gigabyte is plenty for what you need for the month, but that's also an available add-on for OCS 360 remote. Okay, and again, you can change plans, you can add controllers, all those sorts of things. So managing your subscription is something else you're probably not familiar you can do from OCS 360. Now let's say we want to add another admin, okay? Not necessarily someone who has the ability to go in and change the billing settings, but somebody who has the ability to create dashboards and all the sort of other things that a tenant administrator does as part of his duties with OCS 360. So how can we, add somebody else to have that sort of capability? Again, everything but the billing. Well, we go to the admins area here and we just add an admin, okay? So I'm gonna go ahead and add there. I'll go ahead and add a colleague of mine. So let me go ahead and type in Don Clutterbuck's address, all right, and information. And see, once I typed in his email address, he was automatically found, okay? So he's another OCS 360 user. I'm giving him the ability to be an admin on my account for everything but the billing, okay? And then if he was not in the system already, so if he was somebody totally new, all right, then the main difference would be, of course, this information would not fill in automatically, and we would need to send him an activation email to get him added as an admin. Again, for everything except for billing. Okay, so once I hit add, okay, then it shows that Don is authorized to work on this project on my primary account here. And again, he can set up new dashboards that we can then share, access all the information that we set up, on this project. He just can't change the billing. So what does it look like to be the admin on a different account that's not your primary account? Well, let me show you. So I'm going to go back to accounts, okay, and I'm going to press this switch account button. And what this does is it will bring up a list of all the projects where I am a tenant administrator, but I'm not the primary guy, okay? So I'm going to switch to this project here, okay, and hit the enter button. All right, and now for this project, I have, again, full ability to modify dashboards, change alarming, whatever I need to do, just look at things, but I have more than just look at things type capability. Again, I can make changes. So let's go up here under dashboards and take a look at what's going on with this particular project. So here we go. So we've got this application running here. And again, I can go in and make changes, whatever I want to do. I just can't go in and make any billing changes. So it's very useful to be able to create other administrators and to be a secondary administrator yourself, or a subtenant if you want to think of it that way. So that's how you do that with OCS 360. Before the next tip, I want to show you something else in Cscape. So remember, back when I showed adding a controller, I showed that if we check this checkbox here, all right, next to the variables that we want to publish, then it gives us effectively the start of our OCS 360 configuration by adding all of those variables that I checked into this default group of published variables, okay? However, that doesn't give these variables the ability to be written to by OCS 360. That requires a subscribe group. So since I do have some variables that need to be written back to, effectively some set points, then what I did was I added a group. Okay, in my case, I called that group set points. You could call it whatever you'd like. I marked that it was a subscribe group, and then I added some variables to that group. So this is the list of variables that I can actually write to from OCS360, and I could add a whole bunch more. The variables here in the default area that are initially added through that checkbox in the program variable window, those only push to the cloud from the OCS. The next thing I want to show you is a couple new widgets that are available that I think you'll find useful. They're simple, but sometimes simple is good. All right, so let's go to the dashboards and we'll take a look at our pizza shop dashboard. Just a real simple dashboard. I'm showing 4 zone temperatures for each of the zones for the pizza oven. And then I do have a way for modifying the set point for the target temperature in degrees Fahrenheit, as well as the cook time in seconds. And if we take a look at the camera view here, we can see, sure enough, there are our values in terms of our target temperature and our cook time. So sometimes it's easier to make modifications instead of using a dial to write data just by typing it in. Okay, I mean, this is effective, it's working. Our values are indeed changing. Okay, as you can see, our cook time has changed and our temperature set point has changed. But again, maybe we would prefer just to type the data in. So we have a new type of widget. Let me go into edit mode here. And let's hit the add widget button. And what we're gonna look for is the data update widget. Now, instead of showing widgets in terms of their bundles, let's go to all widgets and let's find the data update button. That's what we're looking for. All right, so we click on that guy. All right, where's the data gonna be tied to? Well, we're tying it to our device. That's my CPU 300 oven that I have on the desk here. Under appearance, in terms of the actual value that I want to write, well, it just so happens I have 2 values that are subscribed data from this particular controller, the cook timer preset and the target oven temperature. So target oven temperature is the one that I want. Okay. And let's just hit OK here and see what it looks like. All right, pretty simple, pretty small. Well, the size isn't bad. Let's just go ahead and leave that there. But we definitely need a title on there. So let's go back in and under appearance, let's set the legend to target temperature. And let's let people know that it's in degrees Fahrenheit. And then what do we want the button to say? Send is okay, but how about update? That might be more intuitive. All right, and let's just go ahead and apply and see what things look like. Okay, so target temperature, a little small. We could probably do a little bigger than that. Let's modify that just slightly. All right, again, go to appearance and let's change our size here to, let's go to 16 and call that good enough. There we go. We're gonna go with that. Now for our cook time, let's go ahead and just duplicate this and make modifications to it. So let's copy it, paste, all right, and go in and edit it. So instead of target temperature, this is gonna be our cook timer preset, and this is gonna be in terms of seconds. Oh, I should say, I'm sorry, cook time in seconds. There we go, that's better. All right, that should do what we need. Let's close it and look. There we go. Cook time is currently 353 seconds. So that looks good. Okay, so that is our new data update card. All right. Now, another thing that is a very simple widget, but again, useful, is the ability to label things a little bit easier. Yeah, I've got to label the title of my page here is labeled. But I'd like to put labels on here. So we didn't really have a, believe it or not, we didn't really have a super simple way of doing that before. So let's check out another new widget. This one is the label card. So again, let's go to all widgets, scroll down in alphabetical order, and then the label card. Talk about simple. All right, so let's just put oven zone temperatures here for our label. Let's bump that text up a little bit. All right, let's change the color. All right, let's go something more like that. Hit add. Okay, let's move it up where we want. Let's make it skinnier first. Okay, we're getting there. And that's more like it. Oops, got to make it a little bit. There we are. Now let's move it up to oven zone temperatures. And let's do one for set points over here as well. So let's copy, paste, edit. All we have to change here is just the word, because that's all this is a label. Set points, apply, close this guy, make this guy size the way we want him. Okay, let's scoot him over, and there we go. Okay, so again, this is really simple, but sometimes simple is good. So there's a couple of new widgets that we thought you'd like to know about. And keep in mind, we have a major new release of OCS360 coming up this summer that's going to add a tremendous amount of additional widgets, including SCADA-style widgets that will allow you to kind of simulate and show more or less simulations of what your process might look like with pipes and tanks and those sorts of things. But for now, as simple as they are, a couple of new widgets can really be useful. So for the last tip I want to show you today, I want to show you how you can fairly easily duplicate dashboards. So in our application, as you saw, we created a dashboard because we are simulating a pizza oven at a business in a location. Now, after I pressed stop, when I was showing you those last widgets, I went ahead and added a couple labels to this dashboard showing the business name and the location name. I could have done that with, GPS coordinates and maps and something a lot fancier, maybe even a photo of the store, but I just went simple here. Okay, so what we want to do is, this of course represents a machine or an oven that is in a particular location that is effectively being run by a CPU 300. Okay, that's what we've been working with. So if we go back and look at our devices, we'll see we've got our CPU 300 based oven. However, we also have this Canvas 7D based oven in a different business in a different location, and we want to create a duplicate dashboard for that. So how is it easiest to do that? All right, well, let me show you a pretty easy approach. All right, so what I'm going to do under our dashboard that we want to duplicate is I'm going to press this Export Dashboard button here, and it downloaded a JSON file to my downloads directory of that entire dashboard. So now I can hit the plus button, and instead of creating a new dashboard, I can import a dashboard and then browse to that JSON file here in my downloads folder. Okay, hit import. All right, now it added another one, but they're both labeled the same with the same title, so it's a little confusing. This one was created later, so this is obviously the one we just created. So let's go ahead and change the details of this dashboard. I'll go into edit mode here so that we can effectively do something a little clearer in terms of identifying these dashboards. So let's say this is going into the Pizza Czar business, and it's the Canvas 7D oven. Okay, all right. And we'll say this is located in Nashville, Indiana. Yes, there is a Nashville, using the Canvas 7D architecture, because we can have different machines with different architectures, so it might be useful to make that annotation. All right, there we go. So we're good there. Let's close that. So now we have two clearly delineated dashboards, but we need to modify this one so that it points at the proper device at the proper location. All right, so for the simple stuff here, of course, that's just a matter of going into edit mode, changing the text. Okay, so the name of the business is what I'm doing here. All right, and then the location. For this guy, this is, again, Nashville, Indiana. And again, this is simple stuff. I could have done this after the fact, but hey, let's just be thorough in our approach. Okay, so things like labels, we have to just manually change those. That wasn't very difficult. Okay, now for some widgets, it will remove the device entirely, so you'll get something that looks like this. And for other widgets, it won't actually remove the existing device. But in either case, what we need to do is go in and set the device properly. So let's start by going into these widgets, go into edit mode. Okay, and then under device, that's not where we want to be. What we need to do here is we need to X out there and then select Canvas 7D oven. Okay, that's what we need to do there. So we apply that, close it. Let's go to zone 2. We're going to do the same thing, go into edit mode. Okay, X out there, select 7D oven, apply. All right, so as you can see, it's not that difficult. It's just, let's face it, it's going to take me a total of like 3 or 4 minutes to do this. Whereas if I created a brand new dashboard from scratch, it would take me quite a bit longer than that. Okay, no question about that. All right, so this is my last one I need to change. Again, X out that guy, change it to Canvas 7D and hit apply. Okay, and then for these, it already deleted the previous device. So now I just got to go in and set the device, hit apply. Again, I'm going to do this 4 times for these last 4 widgets. Canvas 7D oven, apply. All right, X out here, edit, Canvas 7D oven, apply, X out here, click here. All right, Canvas 7D oven, apply, X out here. Okay, so, oops, did I do it right? I did. Now I need to save it. All right, so now we have a new working dashboard, effectively identical to the previous one, with a fraction of the work required for creating one from scratch. So let's finish up today by talking about what's next for OCS360. Now, the first thing I want to talk about is a feature that's already here. It's just been delivered just in the fairly recent past, and it's called OCS360 Remote Connect. What is that? Well, that is the ability directly from Cscape 10 to be able to access your controllers anywhere in the world using the OCS360 Secure Tunnel. So why is that a big deal? Well, now you can troubleshoot, upload, download, anything you can normally do from Cscape while the controller is at your desk, you can now do from Cscape if the controller is deployed in the field. And you can do that securely without needing any kind of dedicated security hardware in the field like E1 or a Tazi box. So that's a big deal. And the other big deal is this is incredibly inexpensive. For $100 a year as a standalone service, for as many controllers as you want to support, that's all it costs. And if you're already using the OCS360 cloud service, then it's only $50 a year extra. So a really cool feature, really highly functional. If you're a Horner customer, if you've got Horner controllers out in the field, then you're going to want to take advantage of this capability. All right, now another big thing coming this summer, so it's not quite here yet, but it's almost here. Remember, I'm recording this in June, so it's already just about summer, and that is support for OCS360 for the Micro Series and for the CPU 200 and CPU 250. Now, these are extremely popular products, but they don't yet support OCS360, but that all changes this summer. And then finally, a couple other things I'll mention. First of all, starting with WebMI 2.0 web hosting. Now, we've been talking about WebMI 2.0 on this channel as Horner transitions from WebMI 1.0 to WebMI 2.0. But the big deal with OCS 360 and WebMI 2.0 is now, with this companion service, you'll be able to host WebMI 2.0 web pages from OCS 360. Now, why is that a big deal? Well, traditionally, WebMI pages are hosted by the controller itself, which is very effective in Plant, and you can also use it outside of Plant if you have, the right security settings in terms of, maybe holes in the firewall, which is never a great thing, or maybe a dedicated, security device, again, like an E1 or a Tazi box. However, with WebMI 2.0 hosting on OCS 360, now OCS 360 will host the web pages. using its existing secure tunnel. And now you don't have to worry about those dedicated security boxes or worry about accessing these web pages securely anywhere in the world. You can just do it trusting OCS360's dedicated secure tunnel. So again, this is a big deal. And long term, you'll have the ability to have more folks accessing your web pages because they'll be hosted from a web-based server out in the internet, as opposed to hosted by a controller whose primary job is to control the application. Now, in addition to this great feature, there's a lot of other things scheduled for this summer. We're adding SCADA-style editing to OCS 360, custom branding support. So if you're interested in, maybe you're a system integrator or an OEM and you want to sell to your customers this cloud service capability, but under your brand name, that capability is being added this summer, and there's plenty more coming as well. All right, that does it for the technical content for today. If you haven't done so already, you should really check out the Manufacturing Hub podcast. This is one of the best automation-related, manufacturing-related podcasts that are available. And the hosts, Dave Griffith and Vlad Romanoff, are very knowledgeable and very entertaining. Now, I've been a guest on this program before, a couple of years ago, and there's a mystery guest this week who is going to be talking about great Horner applications as well as industrial networking and other fun topics, and again, informative topics. So you may want to check that out later this week. Okay, no more mystery. Yep, it's me. I'm going to be back again, and I'm really looking forward to it. One other thing to note, and that is at Automate coming up later this month, that's the big automation-related trade show this year in Chicago. Dave and Vlad are going to be stopping by the booth on Wednesday of that week to tape some segments. So that should be a lot of fun as well. If you happen to be at the show on Wednesday at the Horner booth, you might get an opportunity to meet those guys. Or maybe if you're here on a different day, you'll run across them, out in the hall somewhere. So again, these are very knowledgeable guys, and we're looking forward to hosting them. And I'm looking forward to appearing on their podcast again later this week. If you're interested in Horner training, get to our website and sign up today. We've got 2 courses in the 4th quarter, a basic course and an advanced course. There's actually a course going on this week as we speak that's quite, heavily populated. We try and keep the advanced courses a little bit smaller, but this one is pretty well attended. Again, trade shows, and the season has started later this month, the big Automate show that I've already talked about, and then we've got a couple of other shows later in the fall. If you'd like to interact with Horner online, you can do so at hornerautomation.com, or you can check out our YouTube channel, the Horner APG YouTube channel, and there's always lots of Horner news on LinkedIn. Now, next week, we're going to talk about updating the firmware in your OCS.io in the field. Now, this is not necessarily something that has to happen all that often, frankly, although there could be an occasion where, because we've added a feature or added support for a new module, where you might want to do this firmware update in the field. So we're going to show you how to do that. It's going to be a very practical session next week. Make sure you join us. If you haven't subscribed to our channel yet, don't hesitate to do so. It doesn't cost anything. And if you choose notifications when you subscribe, you'll be notified every time we go live or every time we post a new video. Okay, so until next week, when we show you very practically how to update OCS.io firmware in the field, let's all get out there and do some good.